Welcome to Concussion Podcast. My name is Nick Mercer. This is episode 106, and I'm with Bjorn Hazelquist. And he's actually from California, but we'll get into that later. But first, I'd like to talk to you about, first of all, about follow me on, asking you to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Concussion Doc. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And on the social media / podcasting app, Good Pods. And then like to first, before I start talking to Bjorn, I'd like to pause for a second to thank my sponsor, HeadCheck Health. Concussion Talk Podcast is presented by HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges the gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck Health to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. Okay, Bjorn, thank you so much for joining me. And before we get into your story and why it's related to Strength to Pain Foundation, could you tell us about Strength to Pain Foundation and about the summit you just held, summit on concussions and brain injury and concussion in surfing. So please, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Back in 2010, I had my own surfing accident. I was surfing pretty big waves down in San Diego in California, and I ended up getting inverted on a really big wave and getting smashed into the bottom of the ocean, basically head first. So I got really lucky. I didn't die. I didn't get paralyzed, but I did suffer a pretty significant traumatic brain injury from that experience. And after that happened, I suffered with post-concussive syndrome for close to 5.5 years or so. Didn't get much direction from the traditional medicine, the traditional doctors on what to do. And I finally found some relief doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy after about 5.5 years. It finally relieved the bad headaches and the pressure inside my head and symptoms like that. So after that happened, and a few years later, after I recovered a little bit and got better, I decided to start Strength and Pain Foundation, which is just basically to spread education and awareness about different alternative treatments that help people with post-concussive syndrome primarily. And we also step in financially and help people who can't afford the out-of-pocket costs. In the US, most of it isn't covered by insurance, all of these alternative treatments like hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So we'll step into people in need and provide them assistance with that too. But the foundation basically came from my accident and my experience just dealing with post-concussive syndrome for over half of a decade, it was a horrible experience. So
imagine.
Definitely.
And so this summit was it's drawn by you, but by Strength to Pain Foundation about brain injury and concussion in surfing. And I personally don't know. I obviously see how brain injury can happen quite easily in surfing, but I don't know the history behind it. But just okay. Well, I guess we'll start off with what the summit was actually like. What was on the agenda for this summit?
Basically, we wanted to, like I said before, spread awareness about these treatments such as hyperbaric oxygen therapy or neurofeedback or different treatments that people would consider not evidence-based and alternative treatments, just because they are kind of the treatments that do help people who wind up getting the PCS, post-concussion syndrome symptoms. And I wanted to come from it as a standpoint of even doing preventative treatments too, because a lot of other athletes in other sports, that's what they're doing already, like NFL football players and collegiate athletes here in California. A lot of their athletic departments are just providing hyperbaric oxygen medicine to their athletes already, and they're doing it as preventative treatments if the athletes, especially the ones that play contact sports. So I was trying to promote that as a thing to do in surfing, because surfers get smashed around a lot, even if you don't have direct impact, like I had with the bottom of the ocean, or you don't get hit by somebody else's board. You get thrashed around underwater a lot, similar to just what soldiers would experience kind of in a war zone in a blast scenario where your brain just gets rattled around. If you're surfing really big waves, the same thing happens underwater. You'll get thrashed around pretty good, and if you do that repetitively over and over and over again, obviously there's going to be some form of risk for PCS or even CTE down the line too. So that was the whole point, is trying to get it in surfers' minds to do it more of as a preventative measure as well.
And you said it was before the podcast there was a successful summit, like you had a lot of people into it.
Yeah, definitely. We had more people show up than what I thought, and we had a bunch of people tuning in online too. I posted it on Strength and Pain Foundation's Instagram. We did a live feed, and then we posted it on our Instagram, and it was great. We're going to have to do another one probably next year, maybe at a bigger venue, just to have more people show up.
So I guess now, can you just tell us? Well, no, I guess tell us about your injuries first, and also the surfing, like the risks in surfing, like the most prominent brain injury, the way you get brain injured in surfing, and the way you're injured yourself.
My injury, I think my injury probably is pretty common, hitting the bottom. It'll happen a lot, or getting hit by other people's boards or your own surfboard happens a lot too. I think those are predominantly probably the most common, like direct impact blows to the head you can have surfing. And then also the other thing is the big wave surfers specifically, even if they don't have a lot of direct impacts, that, like I was just saying before, they are getting thrashed around underwater.
Yeah, and I watched that HBO series, or some of it at least, the 100-foot wave.
Yeah.
And I know they obviously that's extreme, but what they were doing, I guess, I mean, they're tight extreme, but
yeah, I've never personally been a big wave specific professional surfer, but I know some of those guys, and that is like a little niche in the surfing world where that's what they do. They just chase these giant waves around the world. And a lot of those guys nowadays, I mean, there's been a lot of awareness spread already, and they are kind of doing like hyperbaric oxygen therapy and other things as preventative stuff, just because they know they are going to get pretty well blasted underwater when they're chasing waves of that size. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty intense what those guys actually do.
So what happened in your injury? You said that you were just you're in California, or you're in Newport Beach, which I don't know what that is. I may know it's near LA, but I mean, or I assume it's near LA, but I don't know.
Yeah, we're right in between Los Angeles and San Diego. So Orange County is kind of the suburban area in between. Newport Beach is kind of a nice upscale resort town.
Okay.
And I got lucky enough to grow up right there and started surfing at a young age, and started competing at a pretty young age too. And when I had my accident, I was competing on the qualifying series of the professional surfing tour.
Wow.
And kind of chasing my dream, trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I had that freak accident down in San Diego. And right after it happened, I actually thought I was okay. It was a closed head injury, so I didn't fracture my skull or need immediate surgery or anything.
There was no blood.
Yeah, I was fine. I came in and kind of laughed it off and drove myself home. And then I started having problems, sensitivity with light a few weeks later with my vision and fuzzy vision, stuff like that going on. And I was slurring my speech a little bit. And not even soon after, more like a month or so after, I started getting bad pain in my head and pressurized feeling in my head. And I just went downhill. It went progressively worse and worse and worse until about 6 months later, where I couldn't even get out of bed. I was totally bedridden. My head felt like it was going to explode.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what to do. So
how did you come to see hyperbaric oxygen? Where did you find out about hyperbaric oxygen treatment, and where did you find out about it?
Yeah, I found out about it after I went to the Amen clinics here in California. They're located really close to where I grew up and where I live. Amen clinics in Costa Mesa, California.
Were they called Amen clinics?
Amen clinics, yeah, AMEN,
What?
Amen clinics, and they do the SPECT imaging,
Okay.
SPECT scans, and I had one of those done several years after. I was just dealing with bad symptoms for a long time. I did physical therapy and stuff, which calmed some of it down.
Yeah.
And I got a little bit better, but I was kind of plateaued and stuck at this level where I the pain in my head was the debilitating thing. I was laying in bed most of the time and just taking painkillers, and that was my life. And then a physical therapist of mine suggested I go to this Amen clinics and get a SPECT scan done of my brain. And I did that, and then they showed me a bunch of abnormalities in my brain, and suggested the best thing to do for the pain I was experiencing would be hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So they were the ones that referred me to it.
So, so the upper actually relieved the pain? They just and then was that your main symptom? The
My
pain?
main symptom, yeah, my main symptom was the headaches, and it was this weird pressurized feeling in my head too, where it just felt like my head was being squeezed in a vice and it was going to explode, is what it
Yeah.
felt like for years and years
Oh.
and years. And as soon as I did one session, it just went away. It vanished on me. And I did about 50 sessions in a row, like
Wow.
two times a day, intensively for a whole month,
Wow.
just to make sure I was recovering and make sure it was getting better. And yeah, the difference was night and day after I did it. So
So could you just explain? I've never had hyperbaric oxygen treatment. I heard a lot about it, and I've been suggested I should maybe I'd like to try it, but not by any doctor or physical therapist. But also, what is it? What exactly happens? What do you go through?
they the chambers are set up, either they're like a hard shell chamber where it's kind of a glass tube where they slide you in and they pressurize the chamber, and they give you a oxygen mask with pure oxygen going into your nose and your mouth, and the pressure kind of jump starts your circulation. So it's a similar feeling of just taking off in an airplane. Really, an airplane technically
Yeah.
would be a pressurized chamber,
Yeah.
because it's the same concept. So you feel popping in your ears, and you're laying in this tiny little tube, or they have soft shell ones too that are canvas, that are like a kind of a big tent or sleeping bag almost, that you're laying in, and all you're doing there is just laying there for about an hour or so, just chilling out. You could doodle on your phone, or some of them they have a TV screen and you could watch a movie,
Really?
and that's it. You just lay there and let it happen. And when an hour is up, they'll take you out. And every time I do it, I still feel like rejuvenated and better. So it's still doing stuff to me
So
years and years later.
you still do it? You still like do it like once a day or
I
twice a
do
day?
it. Yeah, right now I'm doing it about once a week.
Okay.
When I'm feeling good, I just recently had a minor little car accident too,
Mm,
which kind of flared stuff up.
yeah.
So that's why I've been doing it about once a week. But the past few years, I've been doing it only about once a month or so, just for maintenance, and
Okay.
it definitely helps.
What do you do otherwise? Do you do like do you surf or do yoga or swim or
Yeah, all of the above. I surf all
okay.
the time
Yeah.
still. I train a lot still because I'm still competing on the qualifying series of the World Surf League. So I'm still training and surfing, and I do lots of yoga. I have other injuries from the accident too. I had a neck injury, so I still do some physical therapy off and on, but mainly just the proactive stuff helps me. The just yoga and
Yeah.
exercise definitely helps me more than anything.
So do you ever meditate or do
Oh yeah.
in the chamber?
Yeah, I've tried it a couple times in the chamber and I ended up falling asleep.
I
But
guess this. And how long are the sessions in the chamber?
and they're usually about 60 minutes, right at an hour, and
Okay.
sometimes they can do an hour and a half. No, not usually longer than that. About an hour to an hour and a half.
And the oxygen must make, I've heard that they in the casinos and stuff, they pump in oxygen because it keeps people awake, but the oxygen chamber doesn't keep you awake like because you fall asleep and you're doing meditation in the chamber.
Yeah, it's some of them are different than others. Like the ones I've been doing lately are these smaller canvas soft shell ones, and they're easier to fall asleep in because they're kind of quieter. The big ones that are hard shell chambers, they're kind of big, more loud industrial things, so
Yeah.
they'll keep you awake.
I bet. So the surf scene in Southern California, I know it's obviously huge, but I mean, so what does concussion? Is there much awareness of concussion risk or concussions, like what to do after? Or
It's getting better now than it has been. That was the main goal of my foundation, to have
yeah,
that Surfers Summit that we just had. People are aware of these things like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and they're aware of concussions. More high profile professional surfers than me, like I said, big wave specialist guys have had brain injuries in recent years. So it's been in like surf media and surf industry more prominently in the past few years than it has been in decades before. But a lot of work still needs to be done. People don't really take it as seriously as they should, because even minor blows to the head, if they're repetitive, like we know, they can develop into more serious things like CTE over long periods of time.
exactly. Yeah, no, it's important to take it very seriously, but also to like you're doing continue to chase your just on the on pro qualifying circuit. So what age is what age would say the most of the surfers are there in their 20s or late teens or 30s? Like they
It
that really have risk of obviously when you're in your 20s and 19 late teens, you risk greater risk of injury because you're more aggressive, more obviously reckless, that kind of thing. But
Definitely, yeah. A lot of the younger guys, it's a whole age range from guys in their teens all the way into their 40s
yeah,
nowadays, because you can have a long career surfing as long as you don't have a terrible accident. It's pretty low impact otherwise. If you're
yeah,
just surfing regular size waves, it's mostly just water. So you can have a really long career and do it into your 40s if you want to. But the
yeah,
younger guys are the hardest ones to kind of talk to and get them to settle
yeah.
down and and take stuff like concussions seriously. But it
Yeah.
is getting better.
And so it's like when you and just regular and you go out say surfing, like I don't know if you're going to or not, but like you go when next time you're surfing or at any time, what happens when you get when you're on a wave and you get and it doesn't and you not say fall off, but you just on normal my normal wipeouts are, but normal wipeout, like what happens to your head, to your body in that moment when you're
If
fall?
you're surfing a regular size wave and you fall like
Yeah,
kind of off balance, you
yeah,
would probably kind of just get tumbled around a little bit underwater. So it's not too bad, really. That there's like an expression in surfing we have. It's called taking it on the head, which is kind of funny, but
yeah,
that refers to being kind of stuck inside the waves. If you catch a wave and you fall, and then there's a bunch of waves coming after it and they're breaking right on top of you, that would be called taking a few on the head, because you're just repeatedly getting these waves thrashing your head around. So that's kind of the thing I was trying to impress on people at this recent summit, that if you're doing that in stronger waves than probably normal size waves, more like 6 to 8 foot waves, where there's obviously a lot of force throwing you around and it's breaking right on top of your head while you're prone and
yeah.
paddling back out, that's probably more destructive, I would think, to your brain than just falling, having a wipeout.
And this happened like just hundreds of times a day to different people. Obviously, not the one person, because hundreds of times. Oh yeah, I guess. Well, how long would you? How many times would you say just go through a breaking wave on your way out to catch one?
It depends on where you're surfing, but there's certain spots like in Hawaii and Mexico, Indonesia, where the waves are a lot more powerful. So you could take up to like 10, 15 waves just like that, having to dunk under them. It's called duck diving when you're paddling back out. And you could take about 10 to 15 right on the head in some situations.
Wow.
And you just have no other choice because
Yeah, you said keep
you're just in a
going.
bad spot.
Yeah. Wow. So, and so you're also mentioning you mentioned oxygen chambers, obviously, but you also mentioned neurofeedback. And so is there any, I mean, you can talk about that, but also any other alternative treatments that you think that you wanted the surf community to know about?
Yeah, I've tried neurofeedback too. I still do that too occasionally. That helps me focus. It helps me with the attention issues that I still kind of have lingering attention issues here and there. It's hard for me to focus for long periods of time. So what that does, it just helps me to calm down and focus more so than anything else. And then other treatments I've tried too. I've tried craniosacral therapy, which is like manual physical therapy.
Is
And
that kind of like chiropractic, or how does that work?
kind of, yeah, kind of chiropractic focused, along with like myofascial release focused
Yeah.
manual therapy, and that's helped me a lot too. And then also I've tried like cold laser therapy, where they've done it right on my brain before, and I
That's just a cold laser, but what does that mean? Like, what is
it's
that?
like it's a laser machine where they do an infrared laser beam. They'll do it all over your body for different inflammation issues and injuries and stuff. And I've had it done like a brain injury treatment on my
Yeah.
brain. And that actually worked pretty well too. It just kind of rejuvenates my brain. Makes me have a feeling of energy and calmness, and it just kind of it's a strange thing to experience because it's just a little laser beam going right here on your forehead. But yeah, it makes me feel better every time I do it. So
Well,
interesting.
that's what's important. Yeah. So, do you
Yeah.
have anything that you do on a daily basis other than medical treatment or alternative medical treatment that would to try to stave off your symptoms or fight them off?
I do a lot of yoga.
Yeah.
I do meditation, not quite every day, but I do it. And I do just a lot of general breath work too, like pranayama breathing and yoga breathing, stuff
Okay.
like that. That helps with surfing specifically too, just because it increases your lung capacity. And if you have a hold down, you're held down underwater for a long period of time, that'll help. But I feel like it helps my brain too. It kind of
Yeah.
regulates your whole nervous system, and it
Yeah.
definitely
No,
helps
I
my
mean,
brain.
I'm also like, I just started yoga in 2015, but it's just which is now 12 years after my, or 11 and a half years after my brain injury. But still, but I found it so good, just the breathing and the movement. Did you find movement? Because I find this the moving and the swim. I swim a lot. Swimming is my main thing. Although I said no, I haven't swam in a while. This week, a few days, maybe. But yeah, yoga and swimming are the main things I think are really just free movement to kind of, do you find?
Yeah, definitely for me. Anything that creates kind of ease of movement where you're just concentrating and making it easy and
Yeah,
path of least resistance type of a stuff, that's what helps me the most.
yeah, no, that must be this. Similar to surfing, because I know like surfing, I know something I for me like I trouble on a bit my balance, and my left side is weaker and no coordinated, and I don't walk well. I can't run or jump, or so that I find that's been like, so going for runs, and I can't go for run, but even before I didn't want to run like running, so I've never worked out. But I find that swimming is just parts. There's no impact and there's no gravity, which is all like surfing. I know surfing has serious gravity because it's the waves and obviously and the boards, but the tricky part. But like there's that, it's a cushion because the ocean is still hard and got a life of its own, but it's just like you feel like you can feel freer out there when you're in the water, or in yoga. When you're doing yoga, you feel freer because just moving feels more natural.
Definitely, yeah. Even back like when I was still recovering and even still dealing with bad um headaches and stuff with my PCS, I would paddle out in really small waves, and just being in the water, and I would kind of float
Yeah,
around next to my board and just mellow out like that. That would
nice.
actually help. I would consider that kind of like surf therapy
Yeah,
for me back in those days. But yeah, just being in the water makes it feel a lot better.
but do you have any other issues with your, from your, since your ranger, but with like balance or with double vision or with as you said, your focus obviously.
I still have that. I still have a little bit of issues with vision. my eyes, it's strange because when I look at an eye chart, it's 2020. I can see all the black and white
Yeah.
letters and everything, but I still have these glary streaks in my field of vision on both eyes. That I have damage to my optic nerves from my injury
Oh,
too.
it's
So
like when you're reading letters, do you see like kind of like a shadow on them?
yeah, I see
If
like
I
a
do,
fuzz.
that's called what's it called? People that do videos and vision people listening to this and they know exactly what I mean. When you have like a shadow on your
Yeah.
there's something like their eyes. Astigmatism, but it's not astigmatism, is it? No, nystagmus. Nystagmus.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
I have something like that. I also have kind of like these glary fuzzy streaks too when I
Oh
look. So
yeah.
it that alone makes it hard to focus because it's
Yeah.
annoying, you know?
Yeah, no, I
So
know. Because I think it's got a double vision and that's can this size you can be distracting.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I had it
definitely.
for now like 18 years. So
Yeah,
unfortunately you get used to it, but or unfortunately, I guess because it's life.
right.
But yeah. So if you're gonna leave, you're at that was you did just 2 days ago. You had this meeting with the server concussion and brain injury summit just 2 days ago. But to leave to anybody who's listening to this or watching the summit on the Instagram, what would you say are the main takeaways you think for surfers in California or anywhere that just should know about concussion and brain injury and surfing?
I think the main thing would be consider doing some of these alternative treatments as a preventative treatment rather than trying to just prevent accidents from happening in the water when you're surfing. The ocean is so unpredictable. It's very difficult to do. I mean, don't be reckless, be responsible when you're surfing and do what you know to do to stay safe. But there's plenty of instances where you don't have much control over what's happening and accidents will happen. So I consider more preventative treatments, just like other athletes do when they know they're going to go out and play football. NFL players, you know, you're going to have impact with other people. So maybe consider treating
Yeah,
it like what they do. I think that would be the main takeaway.
preparing your mind and your body for it. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And would you like to, anything else you'd like to say about strength of pain or anything exciting you have coming up?
You could everyone can check us out on Instagram at Strength and Pain Foundation. Our website strengthandpainfoundation.com. Check out the foundation. We post brain injury stuff every week just to keep a good social media presence going. So definitely check that out. And if you're a surfer, yeah, consider doing what I just said, taking preventions to make sure you don't develop long-term issues with your brain.
Well, thank you so much, Bjorn. This is very helpful for servers and for anyone who's just thinking about just like I was thinking about getting into surfing before my injury, and that didn't quite happen because of my injury. That didn't happen at all. But still definitely an area which I find think it's very interesting because it's just love of the water. But thank you so much, Bjorn, and good luck to Thank the Pain and to see you in California.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me.
Music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.